Imagine sitting on a breathtaking, just a multi-million-dollar yacht in the Mediterranean.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. And you have absolutely zero debt, a bottomless bank account, a dedicated staff catering to your every whim.
Sounds pretty ideal.
It does. But as you look out at that crystal clear water, you realize you are completely and utterly miserable. Okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when people talk about money, we are just, looking at spreadsheets.
Right, or aggressive investment strategies.
Exactly. Compounding interest or having these incredibly dry debates about the housing market. It's all very mathematical and honestly entirely detached from how we actually experience our daily lives.
Yeah, it completely misses the human element.
Totally. But today's deep dive is taking us in a completely different direction. We are exploring a really fascinating set of concepts from a piece called The Emotional Architecture of Wealth, from survival to autonomy.
It's a brilliant piece.
It really is. And the mission today isn't to give you financial advice or tell you what stocks to buy. We are going to explore how crossing very specific income thresholds fundamentally alters the actual texture of your days.
The day-to-day reality of it.
Right. We're talking about the ambient noise level in your brain, the way you wake up in the morning, and the mechanics of how you interact with the people you love most.
Exactly, because society has this very deeply ingrained habit of tracking wealth through a purely mathematical lens. We look at someone's net worth or their annual salary, and we basically treat it like a simple high score.
Yeah, like an arcade game or something.
Right. But what we are analyzing today does something beautifully unique. It actually maps out the psychological and relational realities at distinct income brackets.
Which is so rare to see.
It really is. We are going to trace the human experience from $20,000 a year all the way up to the apex of $1 million a year. And what becomes abundantly clear is that money doesn't just buy different tiers of physical objects. It actively and fundamentally rewires your internal environment.
And as I was digging into this material, I couldn't help but think of it like an incredibly complex video game.
Ooh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, navigating these different income levels is exactly like playing a massive game. But here's the twist. Leveling up doesn't actually make the game easier. It just completely changes the genre of the game you're playing.
That is so true. The whole genre shifts.
Right. You might start out playing a gritty, resource-starved survival game where every move could be your last. And by the time you level up a few times, you're suddenly playing a high-level political strategy game.
The challenges do not vanish.
Exactly. They just transform completely. So as we walk through this today, I want you listening to really think about where you currently sit on this spectrum. Pay close attention to how the fundamental nature of stress transforms at each level, because I guarantee you will recognize your own daily life in one of these tiers.
That video game analogy is incredibly apt, because in that first tier, the survival tier, the rules of the game are brutally simple and unforgiving.
Yeah, it's just raw survival.
We begin at the foundation, which is roughly $20,000 a year. At this level, physical survival dominates almost every single ounce of your daily cognitive bandwidth.
It's a deeply visceral reality. Just think about the mornings at $20,000 a year. You wake up, and before you even fully open your eyes, there is this subtle ambient tightness in your chest.
That physical anxiety.
Yes. The alarm clock ringing isn't just an annoyance telling you to get up for a job. It is a blaring high-stakes reminder that a missed shift could cascade instantly into missed rent. The stakes for every single hour of your day are incredibly high.
And that introduces a very specific type of physiological and psychological stress. It's defined in the material as chronic and micro.
Chronic and micro. Explain that.
I want to linger on the mechanics of that for a second because it's crucial for understanding this tier. At this income, a $150 unexpected expense, let's say a weird rattling noise in your car's engine.
Oh man, the worst feeling.
Or a sudden, throbbing toothache. That is not an inconvenience. It is a full-blown financial crisis that threatens to topple your entire life.
Because there's zero buffer.
Exactly. The underlying mechanism here is that every single decision requires complex, high-stakes math. The brain is constantly running a frantic equation. If I buy these slightly healthier, more expensive groceries today, can I still cover the electric bill on Friday?
It's exhausting.
The cognitive load of poverty is exhausting because your brain literally never gets to rest from the arithmetic of survival.
Think about how that endless math infects your relationships too. That was one of the most heartbreaking insights for me in the source material.
The social cost is huge.
It really is. At $20,000, generosity actually feels expensive. You love your friends. You genuinely want to celebrate a friend's birthday at a nice restaurant. But sitting at that table, just looking at the menu devices, causes you legitimate physical anxiety.
You're completely distracted by the cost.
Right. You're trying to smile and be present and celebrate, but internally your brain is calculating the tax, estimating the tip, and desperately wondering what utility bill you will have to delay paying to cover this plate of pasta.
It forces you to be entirely short-sighted.
Yeah, your horizon at this level is incredibly short. You aren't planning for 5 years from now. You are literally just trying to make it to Friday.
Which means the self at this level is highly resilient and hypervigilant, but perpetually exhausted. It is a state of constant defense.
So what happens to your brain when you finally survive long enough to get a little bit of breathing room? Let's say you level up and hit the $50,000 mark.
The relief is palpable.
Oh, reading about this shift felt like letting out a massive breath you didn't know you were holding. The mornings are finally manageable. You can actually swing by a cafe and buy a coffee on the way to work without feeling a sickening pang of guilt.
The math gets a little quieter.
Exactly. Your basic needs, the rent, the utility bills, a full cart of groceries, they are finally covered without that constant, agonizing mental arithmetic.
What's fascinating here is that the stress hasn't vanished, it has just shape-shifted.
Really? How so?
It moves from immediate daily survival to a persistent sense of vulnerability. At $50,000 a year, the immediate crisis is paused, yes, but the buffer between you and disaster is paper thin.
I see.
You're doing okay on a Tuesday, but you are acutely aware that you are just one major corporate layoff, one unexpected medical emergency, or one blown car transmission away from being hard reset right back to the $20,000 tier.
Oh man, it really makes me think of driving a car with no spare tire.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. The ride is perfectly smooth right now. You can roll the windows down, you can turn up the music, you can actually enjoy the scenery, but your eyes are constantly glued to the road, staring down every single pothole.
Because you know the consequences.
Yeah, you know for a fact that one flat tire is going to leave you completely stranded on the side of the highway. Progress is possible, but it feels incredibly precarious.
You're always on edge.
Exactly. You can socialize again, maybe take a small weekend road trip, but every extra expense is still very carefully budgeted and planned for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are driving the car, but you lack the safety net. Which leads us to a very dangerous psychological assumption.
Right, because logically you would assume that if $50,000 is driving without a spare tire, then doubling your income to $100,000 a year must mean you are finally cruising in an indestructible armored tank.
That's the expectation.
It is, and the micro freedoms at $100,000 are definitely real. Daily logistics become almost entirely frictionless. You walk into the grocery store and you just put whatever you want in the cart without adding it up in your head.
You're not looking at the price of gas anymore either.
No, not at all. And the biggest milestone, you set your bills to auto pay. And you don't even have to log in to check your checking account balance first to make sure they won't bounce.
The physical friction of daily logistics is absolutely gone. But here is the trap of the modern middle class. And it fundamentally revolves around shifted goalposts.
Shifted goalposts?
Yes. Historically, making $100,000 meant you had made it. It was the ultimate financial finish line. But the structural reality of today's economy paints a very different picture.
Wait, hold on. Let me push back on this for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Because if you're making $100,000, how can you possibly feel broke or trapped? To someone listening right now who's making $40,000, that sounds completely crazy. Where is that money actually going if it's not making them feel rich?
It's a completely fair question. And it's the exact cognitive dissonance that drives this bracket mad.
So where does it go?
The money gets rapidly consumed by structural costs that come with this new middle-class expectation. We are factoring in high mortgages to get into neighborhoods with good school districts.
Oh, right. The housing market is wild.
And astronomical monthly daycare cost that rival college tuition. Plus the lingering heavy burden of student loans required to get the six-figure job in the first place.
That adds up so fast.
It does. This income gets stretched incredibly thin across these massive structural pillars. And because of that, the core internal question completely flips.
Flips how?
Well, at $20,000, your brain was asking, will I survive? At $100,000, the question becomes, why don't I feel richer?
Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You have the six-figure salary society promised would solve your problems, but your bank account at the end of the month is still practically empty. And the social pressure at this level is wild. If you're listening to this on your commute right now and you're in that $100,000 bracket, you might be nodding your head about lifestyle creep.
It sneaks up on you.
It really does. Because you can finally match the social spending of your peers without dread. But then you move to that slightly nicer neighborhood for the schools, you buy the slightly nicer, safer car, and suddenly you aren't comparing yourself to the people struggling at 50,000 anymore.
No, your peer group changes.
Right. You look next door and you start comparing your life to your new neighbors who are making 200,000.
And this creates a profound paradox for your sense of self. You have achieved genuine stability. The wolf is no longer at the door. But you realize you are still entirely tied to the machine. You have to keep working just as hard, if not harder, to maintain this new elevated baseline.
It's exhausting in a new way.
Yes. True financial freedom, the actual ability to just stop working if you wanted to, still feels decades away. You've climbed the mountain only to realize it's a false peak and the actual summit is hidden in the clouds.
So if $100,000 still leaves you feeling tied to the machine, what does it actually take to buy back your freedom? Here's where it gets really interesting.
The next major threshold.
Exactly. We transition into the $250,000 to $500,000 tiers. At this stage, money officially stops being the primary problem in your daily life, and the scarcity of time violently takes its place.
Time becomes the ultimate luxury.
Let's look at the $250,000 lifestyle first. Mornings are calm and entirely driven by convenience. You are actively buying back your time and your physical energy.
You're outsourcing the friction.
Yes, you have premium gym memberships, high-end organic meal deliveries, and you're employing people to handle the yard work or clean the house.
And notice how the relational friction from the lower tiers completely evaporates. Generosity becomes effortless.
You're not sweating the restaurant bill anymore.
Not at all. You go to dinner with a large group of friends and you can just casually pick up the tab for the whole table without it impacting your week. You can sponsor a family trip or donate to a charity without a second thought.
That sounds incredible.
It is, but as with every level, there is a significant mechanism at play here. This is the bracket of the golden handcuffs.
Explain those mechanics, because people hear golden handcuffs all the time, but why is it actually a trap?
It's a trap because of how compensation at this level is usually structured. To earn $250,000 a year, your career requires high output and heavy responsibility.
Right. You're not just clocking in and out.
Exactly. But your pay is often tied up in unvested equity, complex stock options, or massive year-end bonuses. You can't just quit or step back without leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table.
Oh, so you're locked in.
You are literally trapped by your own success, and the toll it takes is immense. The stress is no longer about paying the electric bill. It's about sheer, unadulterated burnout.
The hours must be insane.
The unpredictable, long hours severely strain your physical and emotional presence with your family and friends. It leads to a very sobering reality. At this level, you realize that money solves all of your money problems, but absolutely none of your human ones.
Man. Money fixes the car, but it doesn't fix a fractured marriage. It pays for the premium gym, but it doesn't magically give you the energy to actually go after a 14-hour workday.
Exactly.
And if we jump up to the $500,000 level, this optimization dynamic accelerates wildly. Wealth is actually compounding now.
The scale shifts completely.
It does. You aren't just buying basic convenience anymore. You are systematically removing all daily friction. You might have a personal assistant handling your schedule, comprehensive house management, and premium travel upgrades so you literally never have to wait in a line.
But look at how the anxiety shifts. At $500,000 a year, you are no longer focused on simply saving money. Your daily task shifts to capital preservation.
You have to protect what you've built.
Yes. Your anxieties become highly complex. You are worrying about aggressive tax strategies, managing diversified investments, and fearing macro market shifts.
Stuff you never thought about at 50 grand.
Right. The psychological pain of losing wealth loss aversion becomes a dominant daily thought. But the most profound and often painful change happens in your social circles.
Right, because friendships fundamentally require a shared reality. And at $500,000, your reality has completely diverged from the average person's.
Precisely. And it's not just about wanting to take an impromptu trip to Cabo or dropping $500 on a Tuesday night dinner.
Which your old friends making $60,000 simply cannot participate in.
They can't, but it's deeper than that. It is the absolute exhaustion of context switching.
What do you mean by context switching?
Well, when you are around your old friends, you have to constantly filter your reality. You can't complain about the tax implications of your stock options or how stressed you are about your contractor for your second home.
Because to them, those sound like absurd, offensive luxury problems.
Exactly. So you hide parts of your life. And they, in turn, feel uncomfortable, not wanting to seem like a charity case if you are constantly offering to pay for everything.
That is so tough.
It is. So organically, almost without anyone meaning to, the circles fracture and separate. You naturally start gravitating toward other high earners simply because you don't have to filter yourself around them.
It's exactly like moving to a foreign country.
That's a brilliant way to look at it.
When you hit that $500,000 mark, you completely stop thinking in the language of price tags and budgets. You start thinking and speaking in this entirely new language of leverage, autonomy, and optimization.
It's a completely different vocabulary.
And just like moving abroad, speaking a different language naturally and inevitably isolates you from the folks back home. You still love them, but you literally do not share the same daily vocabulary anymore.
That isolation is the perfect bridge to the final threshold we need to explore today, the apex.
$1 million mark.
Yes. We have watched money solve physical needs at 50,000, buy convenience at 100,000, and optimize time at $250,000. Now, we follow the reality to the extreme. $1 million a year and beyond.
It's hard to even fathom for most people.
At this level, daily friction disappears entirely, leaving only you, your mind, and the reality you've constructed.
The millionaire morning. It is the ultimate autonomy. If something breaks, if a flight is canceled, if a pipe bursts in your house, it doesn't even register as stress.
It's just a minor administrative task.
Right. You literally just throw money at the problem, someone else handles it, and it vanishes immediately.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological weight of this specific level is unexpectedly heavy.
Heavy. How?
Think about it. For most of our lives, money is the ultimate scapegoat. If we are stressed, unhappy, fighting with our spouse, or generally unfulfilled, we comfortably blame our lack of resources.
We say, if I just had more money, I could travel, I could relax, I would finally be happy.
Exactly. But at $1 million a year, money completely ceases to be a constraint, which means it is violently stripped away as an excuse.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. That is actually terrifying. Money is the perfect scapegoat.
It really is.
If you take that excuse away, I mean, if you are sitting on that yacht in the Mediterranean we talked about earlier, and you are still miserable, you can't blame your boss or the economy or your bank account. You just have to look in the mirror and realize, oh, I'm the problem.
Exactly. It induces a very real form of existential dread.
Yeah.
You have everything society said you needed, so why aren't you perfectly content? Furthermore, the isolation trap in relationships reaches its absolute peak here.
Because how do you ever really know if someone likes you for you?
You don't.
Are they laughing at your jokes because you're funny, or are they just intoxicated by your access, your extreme generosity, and your status? That has to create this incredibly insulating, suspicious bubble between you and the rest of humanity.
You're constantly on guard.
Yeah, you have to constantly curate your inner circle just to filter out people who view you as a walking ATM.
And this brings us to the most crucial psychological insight regarding the self at these extreme wealth levels. It is the fundamental concept of money as a multiplier.
A multiplier.
Yes, money does not change your core identity. It merely expands whoever you already were. It's a giant amplifier.
So if you're anxious.
Right. If you were deeply anxious, controlling, or insecure when you were making $50,000 a year, making $1 million doesn't magically cure that insecurity. It just gives those exact same feelings a much, much bigger stage to play out on, with far higher stakes.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at this entire journey from $20,000 to $1 million, we get an incredibly clear roadmap of the human experience.
A roadmap of our relationship with security.
Exactly. Money buys literal safety and survival up to $50,000. It buys comfort and removes daily friction up to $100,000. It buys ultimate convenience and time up to $250,000. And beyond that, it buys pure autonomy and freedom.
But the critical caveat, the profound truth that anchors this entire discussion, is that peace of mind is not inherently built into any of those salary brackets.
It's not a feature you can just purchase.
No, it's not. A higher income is fantastic at removing external obstacles.
Yeah.
But it does not magically construct internal peace. That is a completely separate project.
Yeah.
Peace of mind has to be cultivated independently, deliberately, and intentionally at every single level of wealth.
It really is a completely separate skill tree in that video game we talked about. You can grind and max out your wealth stats all you want, but if you completely ignore your internal peace stats, the game is still going to be a nightmare to play.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building directly on that idea of money as a multiplier. If money truly acts as a giant magnifying glass for who you already are, take a hard, honest look at your current emotional state.
It's a tough exercise, but necessary.
It is. Look at your current anxieties, the way you treat the people around you, and your current joys. If your current self, exactly as you are today, was suddenly amplified by $1 million stage tomorrow, what would that actually look like?
Would you like what you see?
Exactly. Are you currently cultivating the person you'd actually want to multiply? Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.